Now, this one that I've been most looking forward to. We're lucky enough to score some local star power in the room today. The nation's sports fans have had plenty of late nights in recent weeks. I don't know about you, but I've certainly been up watching the Matildas, our record-breaking swimmers, our newly crowned netball world champions of diamonds. So it's really been one of the most exciting times in Australian sport, but perhaps topping them all off for drama and anxiety was the heart-stopping Ashes series between Australia and the old enemy. The Australian Test team, led by a strong contingent of New South Wales players, prevailed and retained the famous urn, but it was not without some hostility from the home crowd. Well, I'm delighted to say we can hear what it was like firsthand from someone who grew up less than 40 k's from here. He's from Bendemeer, but I'm sure you'll claim him as your own. Please welcome to the stage, Josh Hazlewood. How are you, Josh?
Good
stuff. Yeah. Have a seat. Oh, mate. Back on home territory, hey?
Yeah.
You haven't been getting as many sledges here, have you? Or do your mates give you a hard time?
I still cop a fair bit up here, my mates, yeah.
Yeah. What was it like in the cauldron, though? I mean, it seemed, we've all watched Ashes series going back, for me personally, probably 40 years. I don't know if I can recall such vicious hostility from the crowd. Was it as intense as it looked on the screen?
Probably not. I mean, that's my third Ashes trip now in England, so sort of used to the crowds, and you try and get them on side as early as you possibly can of a morning. But yeah, I guess once you're in the midst of it and you're amongst the game, it just sort of keeps flowing. And I guess the media they probably beat it up a bit more than what it actually was.
Oh, we'd never do that, would we?
Lords was quite a different scene than it usually is, so that was exciting.
Yeah, the MCC, who would ever thought that they'd be the hooligans? I love it. I suppose you'd also be used to it from, playing in India. I mean, that can be quite a cauldron as well, right? Yeah,
India's amazing. I mean, it's hard to actually describe what it's like over there to someone who hasn't witnessed a cricket game in India. It's actually it's the home. It's pretty much the home of cricket now, it feels like. We're there all the time. We're there probably 2 or 3 months of the year, every year, and it's just, the crowds are amazing. The people love cricket. They live for it, literally, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it'd be an amazing thing to be in a place where it's actually the number one game by a country mile. Just coming back to the Ashes, though, I need to ask you about that cricket ball. I don't know about everyone else here, but I just found it quite astonishing that a 38 overall ball would you'd have to put sunglasses on to look at it. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, not really. I mean, England is probably the one place where you really push for a different ball, not a new one, but a different ball every 20 or 30 overs. If you haven't got a wicket, you can really push for it. And occasionally, it might behave nicely for the bowling team for 5 or 10 overs, but that was something else, that one. And I think I was batting out there in the 90th over, and it was still swinging around and carrying through the keeper up top. So, yeah, amazing change of events, and it may have dictated the game, but you can't change it now.
I mean, it made us think, do you reckon the batting side should have a say? They've sort of got rid of that in the last few years, but it doesn't seem fair that the batting side doesn't at least get to stick their nose in and say, hang on a minute, that looks a bit new.
Yeah, well, the bowling team doesn't get to choose either. It's up to the umpires, and the balls are sort of in categories of different ages, I guess you could say, and it's up to the match referee and the umpires to choose that ball and then go from there. So, yeah, we're pretty unlucky in that one.
Without getting too cricket nuffy about it all, the Duke ball, apparently the seam isn't quite as pronounced, and so therefore, like overall in the series, it probably didn't move around a bit as we were accustomed to.
Yeah, I think the wickets as well were probably quite flat. In terms of England, that's not the typical English wicket. They're usually seaming around and swinging around, and I guess that's part of the ball and part of the wicket. So just to suit their style of play now, they probably going down the track of a nice flat wicket, a nice flat ball, and try and score as quickly as we can.
Bring on Bazball, eh?
Yeah.
So Bazball, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up for me, because they score their runs in about 50 overs, so it means I have to bowl less. I don't have to be out there in the field for too long. So that was one good part of it. I guess it puts you under severe pressure pretty quickly, and I guess if you don't react quick enough, then the game gets away really, really quickly.
And as a bowling unit, did you discuss the fact that they were going to be coming at you, and the fact that you'd probably have to hold your nerve and stick to your plans? Was that some of the discussions you had in the lead up?
Yeah, that was probably the main discussions we were having as a bowling group within the the bowling group and the coaching staff combined to sort of come up with a plan, and it was basically just to stop the boundaries, really. So we were happy to give up ones and twos, but if we stop the boundaries, that sort of stops their momentum and pressure, and we sort of go from there. But we sort of had some wins and had some losses, and I think both teams could probably say that over the space of 5 tests.
Yeah, it seemed that you sort of were evolving with it and developing your tactics as you sort of got used to this entirely novel way of playing the game, and trying to sort of strike a tightrope between having some players who are in catching positions, but at the same time trying to protect the run rate.
Yeah, that was the balance, I guess, and it was different sort of bowling your first spell of the morning with fielders out in the boundary, just a different mindset, I guess, and that was something we had to get our heads around a little bit as a bowling group, and it probably took quite a while, I think. It's just so much different to normal Test cricket. So once we sort of got our heads around that and got used to it, and that was the new norm, then we could sort of move forward. So, yeah, as I said, we come up trumps a few times, but they got us a few times.
Well done to Alex Carey, by the way. That was a marvellous piece of wicket keeping. And for anyone who plays club cricket and below, that's absolutely standard behaviour, and also at the higher level too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they didn't really have a leg to stand on when we saw Johnny Bairstow doing it, sort of the week before, and even their coach was doing it when he played. So, yeah, that's part and parcel. I think he had the ball in his gloves for probably less time doing that run out than a normal stumping. So, play on in my books.
I don't know if you saw it because you're overseas, but we put dummies in all their mouths and sort of tried to rub it in. But look, you held the Ashes as a magnificent performance, and probably a bit rough not to win the last test as well. Coming back to Australia and your hometown, obviously it was a great nursery for you to come from here and become such a great test player. Do you think it's still conducive, the resources and there's conditions in local towns to create sporting champions?
Yeah, I think so. Probably don't get back here enough to really realise it, but just talking to guys involved in cricket in Tamworth in particular, there's still young guys coming through all the time. Down at, I think Cricket New South Wales do a great job of, no one really gets through the net these days, if that makes sense. So,
yeah.
If you talk to some older guys around the town, they sort of think, I could have played cricket for Australia if I just got the opportunity. So, some of that's probably true, some isn't, but I think opportunity is the key word, and I think, no one really gets through the net now. I think New South Wales do a great job of finding all the talent, nursing it as best as possible, and getting that opportunity to then move to Sydney, and whether it's playing Sydney grade cricket or higher, the opportunity's there, so it's great.
And what about young kids? Because there's so much money and so much glamour involved with the shorter versions of the game, particularly obviously 20 overs, and now we've got the 100 in England and so forth. Do young kids, do you think they still see the grandeur and prestige around Test cricket? Does it worry you?
I don't think I'd say in Australia, England and India, I think Test cricket's still the pinnacle, and I think we get well looked after from Cricket Australia in terms of Test cricket. I think it's a worry for other countries. South Africa we've seen sort of drop away a little bit. Pakistan will always be great. West Indies is probably the first one we saw sort of start to slide and everyone start to move to T20 cricket. So it's a little concerning, but I think in Australia in particular, Test cricket's still very much the pinnacle. You see all the youngsters really go in that direction until they realise, okay, maybe I'm not going to make it, then they can fall back into the franchise stuff. So you're getting a lot of players at the top level, but I still think Test cricket's the pinnacle.
It's great to see, though, that the T20 format is actually working to colonise the game around the world. So we're now seeing really good players playing in the American League now. I mean, that's an incredible frontier. And I guess the other side of it is all that money coming into the game is ensuring that perhaps we don't lose those junior players to other codes.
Yeah, in particular, I think West Indies is a big one. And now that we've got the American League, hopefully that just keeps going bigger and bigger every year. And I think it will. The IPL teams are behind it, which means it's going to succeed mostly. So to get those West Indian cricketers back into cricket other than basketball and other sports in that particular area, it'll make them strong again. So hopefully that happens.
It just does make it so much more exciting when those nations are thriving.
Yeah.
Just back to the English again. There was a lot of talk about the spirit between the players, and obviously after the Lord's match and so forth. How did it all end up? I mean, it was sort of, there was discussion about, we didn't have a beer afterwards, but then you met up at the nightclub, and it's important, isn't it, to be able to end things on a good note. But how did it all play out?
Yeah, it's all fine. Yeah, as you said, we caught up not in the sheds, but afterwards. I think it was just the circumstances. Really, they had a lot of retirements, and a couple of their staff were retiring as well. So they just had a lot of family in there. The sheds aren't very big either, so it's sort of a lot different these days. You catch up with your family and friends straight after the game, and then we catch up with English after. So all sweet from our point of view, and we play so much with them. Whether it's county cricket or IPL, you're always in each other's pockets. So. Sort of get sick of each other after a while.
I can imagine. You have noticed that since the onset of IPL that the players tend to get on a lot better. I remember you go back to the days of Monkeygate back in 2008 and there was true hostility there. But now there's that familiarity, right?
There is. It's still, on the field, it's still the same old stuff, hard fought Test cricket. And then I think we know each other so well. You spend a couple of months in India together and you're playing with each other. And everyone knows each other so well on the field and off the field, so the little things that get on their nerves and different things. So it's I think it's great for world cricket. Everyone knows each other really well. Yeah,
it looks like the sledging's getting a bit better because you tend to see the batters they'll laugh a bit, and there's a lot more humour involved, it seems.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's just from knowing each other. You can say little things here and there that are very particular that you would say to your mate. Whereas when you don't know each other, it's hard to say anything sort of witty. So yeah, it's been really good.
Do you have discussions about which players to, maybe have a bit of a chat to, and which players actually it doesn't work because then they just knuckle down?
Yeah, definitely. I think Virat Kohli's probably the one who we sort of everyone just keeps calm and quiet and let him go about his business, and I think he thrives on that, on that chat, on that hostility, on that fight. So that brings out his best cricket. So we sort of go the other way for him.
Quiet.
And then there's other guys who you can really get stuck into, and it's sort of that's their weakness. So everyone's different.
Who'd be one that you'd sort of be chatty to?
Good question. It's getting less and less these days, I think.
Yeah.
I couldn't name anyone off the top of my head, but usually the young guys, you just make them feel under pressure.
Yeah.
They're still playing for their spot. They're not settled in the team yet, and that can sort of get them on edge. So
Harry Brook.
But once you know the batsmen, they're in their head so much anyway. You don't need to say a word.
Yeah, it's great. It's incredible to watch, and it's so intimate when you're watching it in your lounge room. You're seeing you guys close up. It's sort of like we feel like we're all part of the theatre of it. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, it's huge now. It's just changed so much. Even when I first played, there's dual broadcasters now in Australia, so you're doing twice as much media. You just feel like every day there's someone doing media, 2 or 3 players. The TV's so in your face with the spider cam, stump mics, different things. So got to be careful out there in the middle. And but it's good fun.
A few players aren't too impressed with the spider cam. We love it though. So yourself, it's fantastic to see you back out there and playing regularly, particularly during the Ashes series. You must be just pumped for the upcoming summer season, and then onwards. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. Just talking around today, the cricket just keeps going. It's just, the footy season lasts 6 or 7 months, but the cricket season is just 12 months a year when you're playing internationally. And that's the toughest thing is being away from home, probably.
Yeah.
You get 50 or 60 nights in your own bed each and every year, and that's probably the thing that wears most people down. But, you got to cash in while you can. And the World Cup's next after South Africa, and then back here for the Australian summer. So it's there's always something coming up, and, you got to stay fit.
It's funny with the World Cup because everyone gets excited about the World Cup. It still has that status. But one day cricket overall isn't quite holding up, is it, against the shorter form?
Yeah, it's in an interesting space, I think, one day cricket. I think you'll see a lot of retirements after this World Cup from individuals, to free up their calendar and still play Test and T20 cricket. We've already seen it with Ben Stokes and players like that. But yeah, I think the World Cup still holds its own very well. If you could have another maybe Champions Trophy every second year against that, I think that's probably nearly enough ODI cricket, to be honest. So it's an interesting place where we're at.
We're running out of time. I have one final question. I'm going to get in trouble about it. But the Ashes series we just had, as you said, there's a lot of players who will be bowing out. If they haven't already, they will be over the next 4 years. So there would have been a sense of real history about it, was there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the average age of their bowling attack was about 45, so there's a few of those guys that'll be finishing up soon. But in our own backyard, our team's ageing, there's no doubt, on both fronts, bowling and batting. So
are there good ones coming through for us?
Yeah. There's always new ones coming through. No one's indispensable, that's for sure. We even found we thought Cameron Green would play for 15 years straight, and now Mitch Marsh's really putting the pressure on. So everyone's replaceable, and I think that makes for a good strong side.
Brilliant, mate. Listen, we're so grateful that you've come to the Bush Summit. It's good to hear from politicians, but it gets a bit boring after a while. So it's fantastic to hear from you, and particularly as a local turning up. Thanks so much.
No worries, thank you.